Okay, we're in the third Sunday of Advent, and as I've been explaining, I am taking a different approach to it than what you would normally see in the traditional way. And I'll just go over again the symbology of the candles and the wreath up front here. So you see the three candles I just lit the first represents life, which is the green one. The second one I talked about last Sunday represents love, understanding. The one I lit today represents power, and it's associated with strength, and we'll finish up next Sunday morning with intelligence, which is expressed as order. And I'm considering these four elements as four fundamentals of God. When we think of God as life, we think of God as love, we think of God as power, we think of God as intelligence. These fundamentals are omnipresent. There's no place we can be, no place we can go where these powers, these elements are not, which means that we have access to them at all times. The white candle in the center represents the soul. And that is, if you think of take a magnifying glass and you focus it down to a pinpoint of power, think of that in a sense as the soul, and I'll talk about that just a little bit more here in a minute. The wreath it's a complete circle. It represents eternity. The fact that it's made of evergreen is eternal life, the eternal nature of God. So that encompasses the whole thing. And the vision this raises is that we live within this wreath. We live in omnipresence. We live in the presence of God always. These four fundamentals, these four powers, are always present, and they are focused as our soul. So we are never without them. We're never without access to these fundamental powers, these four fundamental elements. Life expresses through us as enthusiasm. Somebody's full of life, or say they're enthusiastic about life. Love expresses through us as understanding. The more loving we become, the more understanding we become. And I'm using love in the sense that it is that process that eliminates that which is not for our highest good, and it draws to us that which is. That's really the highest function of love, is to clear our path, is to open us to the ability to express in greater levels. Today we're looking at power, which manifests as strength, and that can be strength of character. It can be strength to just hold on a little longer when you're being challenged by something. Strength of knowing that God is my source, God is my help. Strength in knowing that loved one I'm concerned about, their life is in divine order. It manifests in many ways. When we feel we need strength, we would focus on power, the power that is present always. And intelligence, of course, we see expressed everywhere, in all levels. We see it in plants, we see it in animals, we see it in human beings once in a while. Actually, quite a while. I just had to throw that in. But it is, and I'm going to talk about that at some point, probably today or maybe some other day, why we see such a fluctuation, why we see such a variation. If intelligence is present everywhere, why aren't we all expressing it equally? And there's actually an answer for all of these. We see this in not everyone who has access to life is enthusiastic. You've probably seen that, and you've seen it in yourself. So why is that fluctuation? This is what the symbology is, how I'm shifting. We're not looking to the advent of the second coming. We're not looking to Jesus coming again. You can do that. Probably most of us have been through that. We have gone through a religion that has embraced that whole idea. In my opinion, as I have stated many times from here, if he showed up today, he would have pretty much the same experience that he had before. I think the message that Jesus has had to offer was an internally based message, not an externally based message. It is not that someone is coming to save you, but that you have within you the power to transform your own life. You don't look low here and low there for signs that the kingdom is coming, for the kingdom of God is within you. It's a message that has been missed. And we have all of our religions, every single religion, every major religion on this planet is externally based. It is looking for something to happen so that we may be fulfilled. The Hindu takes the idea that we must evolve our consciousness, our soul, to the point where we experience nirvana, where we reach a point where it's the Christian equivalent of the kingdom of God. In Christianity, of course, we place that in a timeline of the human experience. We're here on this plane for X number of years. If we pass the test, we get to reunite with God, or unite with God. But humanity overall is living in a fallen state, so the good we would like to have is not here. It's out there someplace. It's in the future. It's down the road. All religions kick our salvation down the road, kick the can down the road. It's never here. And so we get into New Thought, does the same thing. We are in the presence of God, yet our soul is not yet evolved to the point where we can grasp that. And that to me is one of the greatest errors that all religion teaches, is that which we seek is separate from where we are. And I think that's the message that Jesus taught, is that which we seek is present. It is here. You don't say the harvest comes. I mean, we do say the harvest comes in 3 to 4 months. But I say lift up your eyes and see the fields white for harvest now. That whole message is lost. And the way it is interpreted, people look at that statement today and they look around and they say, yeah, there's a lot of evil going on, but there's this growing thing. The time is coming when God is going to intervene. And that's all happening now. The kingdom is at hand. They've been saying it's at hand for 2,000 years. And it's not at hand in the way we think it's at hand. Like something's going to change outside of ourselves. The system is set up already. This universe is perfect, and we live in a perfect universe. We live in a perfect spiritual dynamic. And what is happening is we're looking outside of ourselves for something to change, rather than understanding that wholeness that we seek is already present. And that's what this Advent series is all about. It's culminating as that inner awakening, that birth or that awareness of that Christ dimension within us. It's not something to be developed. It's something we're going to wake up to. We are waking up to it now. But we still have all these fragments of faith in the future, that it's out there someplace. But it's not out there someplace, it's within us. So I have, again, I'm going to go over this again. The way to think of these 4 fundamentals is the same way you would think of the different colors in the light spectrum. And when we shine a light through a prism, Diane sent me a cartoon last week about Folsom Prism Blues. It was pretty cute, but I'm hesitant to put things like that on the screen because of the copyright issues, which is an interesting thing to have to think about, but we publish on YouTube also, so I've got to be careful about that. But anyway, and I may get busted for this particular illustration too, I don't know, but if you think of God as the white light, it contains all these 4 fundamentals. And the reason I have narrowed it down to 4 is when we think of God and when we read about God, we read about all the God is manifesting in these ways: life, love, power, and intelligence. These are characteristics that we see expressed in the universal. When we look at a galaxy, for example, you see the order, that of this spiral or whatever form that galaxy is in. Nothing's there by accident. It's all formed by law and by order. And so you have this white light that contains the all. I like to call God the creative life force. It is this undifferentiated power, as Thomas Trord would call it, that is accessible to all of us. And our soul is like the prism. It breaks this down and makes it visible, makes the invisible visible. We are a material interface to the cosmos. And we are capable of expressing, well, nobody knows what we're capable of expressing. We're capable of expressing all there is in God to the degree that our biology will permit that. And I'll talk about that in just a moment, because that's a very important point that I want to emphasize here. I'm going to talk a little bit about evolution and what it means to us, because we have a misconception of what it is, of what evolution is. Evolution is also based on this idea. I mean, many people's grasp or thought of evolution is based on the idea that we are less today than we will be in the future. We're moving toward a greater level of expression. That's the whole thought of evolution, and that is absolutely false. The whole point of evolution does not have a goal. And that sounds strange, but it doesn't. It's not going any place. The point of evolution is really adaptation. In other words, if something does not adapt to the environment today, it won't be around tomorrow. That's its whole point, is to adapt to the now moment, to adapt to the environment of now. There's not this hidden thing that is trying to make itself known on the material level in a perfect way, in a way that will not stop again. And just to kind of illustrate this, I was reading an article about the belief among many scientists that today's birds are descendants of dinosaurs. And one of the strains they trace birds back to is T-Rex. So you think dinosaurs were successful. They were on this planet for 150 million years. And I would imagine they had become about as perfect as a dinosaur can become in that period of time. But what happened? They tell us that an asteroid hit in Mexico, and that it eventually caused the extinction of these animals, these huge animals. But what actually happened is the evolutionary process, the process of adaptation. Those large animals that could not survive in the environment that was created by that impact died out. But they morphed into something small, and you might get some enjoyment out of the fact that today's chicken could have been yesterday's T-Rex. They're at the top of the food chain, now they're on the food chain. So it's like, is that a forward-moving progression? If I was a T-Rex, I would find that rather insulting. But what the process is, it just adapts to what is happening now. And the reason this is important is because we say the spiritual, our soul, is incomplete and it's working toward some stage of completion. The reason we know it's incomplete is all you have to do is look at human behavior and see what a mess we're in and say, someday this world is going to be at peace. Someday we're all going to love each other. Someday we're going to be so spiritually evolved that we're going to throw our arms around each other. We're going to beat our swords into plowshares. We're going to, not have wars and rumors of wars and all this kind of thing. Jesus, again, didn't ever accept that. There will always be wars and rumors of wars. So we're not evolving. I mean, that's the idea, is that when the soul reaches this point where we finally get it, as if we're less now than we'll be in some future time, then, our utopia is there in the future someplace. Well, what if an asteroid hit today and destroyed all of us, and maybe just a few survived? Actually, they think this happened, as I explained a couple of weeks ago, in the Younger Dryas period. This is a geological period of time about 9,500 years ago, 9,600 years ago, that ended our last ice age. And some people think a comet hit back then and caused this huge disaster, this disastrous flood and volcanoes, earthquakes, and everything, but that there were advanced civilizations that lived then, and they're gone. And when this happened, humanity became hunters and gatherers again, and that's where traditional human history starts in. They say we're 5,000 years old. Civilization's 5,000 some years old. So the new idea that's emerging, and one of the pieces of evidence is what I showed you a couple of weeks ago, this Göbekli Tepe. It's a site in Turkey that goes back over 10,000 years, and it's a very advanced series of sort of like Stonehenges, a bunch of Stonehenges, only much more sophisticated. And over a very large period, parcel of land. There are 20 some of the, or I don't know how many, there are a bunch of these, but the people that abandoned them buried them. It's a phenomenal thing just to bury these artifacts as they did these, and we're talking about multi-ton pillars that they set up and carved and put in astrological positions and so forth. So this throws a wrench in our understanding of the evolution of humankind. The civilization began 5,000 years ago. Apparently, these people didn't just show up with this knowledge and just put these things up, that it was preceded by something else. So it's kind of throwing a wrench in that whole theory, which is interesting about science, and the scientists are fighting that. They don't want that to be true. Göbekli Tepe is a problem that they wish was never uncovered. But you find this same dynamic in every line of thought, especially in religion. And you find it in new thought, what we call new thought. We develop these scenarios as to how things are supposed to work, and how things are going to work, and how they're going to unfold in our wonderful imagined way. And it's not necessarily true. We have to always be open to what this universe is telling us. And what it tells us is that we are, every one of us, are tapped into this already complete reality. It's not going to evolve any further. It's already done. But it expresses through forms like us. And as I said earlier, each of these forms is biologically limited. The human being appears to be the biggest, the widest. Think of this as God is the sun and shining out on these rays, and every life form is like a solar panel. And there are large solar panels. Human being would be the largest, and there are small ones. Maybe an amoeba or something would be the smallest, but they're all solar panels drawing from this same underlying light. So when we talk about evolution, we're not talking about anything on the level of the light as having to evolve or having to change. We're talking only about the solar panels. And the solar panels themselves don't really evolve. They stay where they are. You think the sparrow that's out feeding in your feeder today is going to be better tomorrow? Do you think sparrows think that way? Do sparrows go to self-help groups, buy self-help books, and figure out how to be a better sparrow? Jesus used sparrows, and he used birds of the air and lilies of the field, simple expressions of life as examples of a principle we're missing. The sparrow is a certain size of solar panel, and it's perfect, exactly as it is. When you watch a bird, they're fully alive. They're as alive as they're ever going to be. They're fully alive. But you look at a person, and they may be bleary-eyed, they may be depressed, disappointed, having a completely different experience than that sparrow is having. Now, why would a sparrow be a better example of life than a human being? When the human being is the larger solar panel, we have the ability to take in and express more of this energy. The difference is the imagination. The sparrow has no imagination like we have an imagination. We have such a powerful imagination, we can imagine we're all messed up. We can imagine we're fallen. We can imagine we were born in sin. We can imagine a God that is looking down upon us, sorry that he made us, and set to destroy whatever it is about us that God doesn't like. So we live with that belief that has absolutely nothing to do with those beams of light that are coming from the sun, that life, love, power, and intelligence that is God, that foundation that I think Jesus referred to as the rock. The house that we are to build is the conscious, is our belief system, it's our understanding. If you build it on that rock, you become the solar panel that is able to generate all of the energy that it needs to, that it can. But it'll always be restricted. Nothing on the material plane can encompass infinity. That's a very important idea, that we're never going to reach a point that we call perfection, that I should say the mainstream thought calls perfection. That point doesn't exist. All of nature has already been there. They've already reached that point. Every aspect of nature is perfect, has reached a point of maximum expression. There's never been a time when it was not there. It's not moving toward a time when it will express itself in a maximum way. It's there today. That's something to think about, because we, again, think God needs to change something. Something needs to happen. But we are wired to express more than anything, and we don't know what that is. We have this imagination. We've been using it to demean ourselves when it's really intended to be turned toward the infinite. What is possible for me? I'm here plugged into this infinite resource all the time. And here I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I'm here worried about something going on in my life. And I want to adapt to all that. I want that to all be right. I want my affairs to be in order. And one of the ways to do that from a spiritual point of view is to recognize I have already all the power that I need to do this, to let this light shine, to let this deeper reality come forth. Nothing has to change. The universe is perfect. All of nature has reached its maximum. It cannot express any more than it is expressing now. It's limited in expression by its biology. And that's where science comes in. That's where it is important to look at things like brain function and brain size and all of this stuff. That does play a role. But where science fails is they do not recognize the underlying life. They think it all comes from the biology. And that's the problem. That's their breakdown. And so science has concluded basically that the purpose of evolution is simply to pass on genes, and that's the only reason you're alive. When you're done breeding, you might as well hang it up. That's what they say. I didn't say that. That's the idea. It's all about this, it's all about the body. But the body is like the solar panel. It's not the source of the sunlight. It is the expressor of that, the transformer of that, from the invisible to the visible, from the universal to the personal. That's our job. That's what we are here to do. And all of us have to find what that means. That's the beauty of this whole thing, and confusion, I guess, also, because I think most people just want somebody to tell them what to do. Tell me where to go. Where's my place in that line? Tell me how to get in the line. We're very used to that. Okay, so we've got this underlying reality, and we are planted in that. We're expressions of that, and we are this solar panel that has the ability to express the widest spectrum, the widest manifestation of this power on this planet. It's not caused to have a large ego. That will shut it down because you think that you're the power. But we are the expressors. We're the avenues, the conduit through which this power is expressed. As the solar panel is, it receives the power and then it translates that power into, say, electricity, which can be used for anything. And that basically describes us. There's no limit to the directions we can manifest, the directions we can go. We can go to the moon, we can stay here. But I know people that have traveled around the world many times but have never traveled to their center, never become aware of their spiritual connection with God. Or call it what you want. I like to call it the creative life force. We're in it and we're complete. Nothing has to change. The only thing that has to change is how we use our imagination. And we're using it to degrade our experience, to degrade ourselves. Power rises in your being as physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual strength. So if you are in a place where you're feeling that life is bigger than you are, you would focus on power. I'm in the power of God. I'm in the full power of God, and I am fully capable of expressing that in the way that I need to. And it expresses as strength in some direction. Have you ever had the feeling that you could not take another step in your life because it looked so bad? I think we've probably all been there. That's where we would say, stop looking outside and acknowledge that I am fully immersed in the power of God. Nothing has to change except my imagination. I'm imagining that I'm powerless in the sense that there's nothing available. I'm drawing my power from outer things. I don't have the money to handle this. My power is in money. I don't have the friends to help me through. My power is in friends. We stop doing that. And we say, God is power, the source of my power. And I open myself to that truth and I begin to feel this rising strength. And it may be strength just to hold my faith steady, that everything is working out. Very important idea. You don't lack anything. When you feel you lack something, that's the self-image. That is the solar panel acting as if there's no sun. But there is a sun. We're just going to imagine the sun's always shining in this regard because we call God omnipresent, omnipotent, all power, all present, all law, at all times. There's no absence of it anywhere. In Him we live and move and have our being eternally. So we're in this infinite sea of power, and we are designed to tap into and express it. So rather than looking out, we pull our awareness back into ourselves, back into our center. Stop saying 4 months to harvest. The fields are white now. The fields are ready now. That is, the power is available now. So we focus on that and we begin to experience inner strength, the strength to go on, to take the next step, to hold that right thought, to know everything's working out in divine order, which is intelligence. You may call on strength to hold a steady course, to take one more step when your world seems to crumble around you, or to steady your faith in the well-being of a loved one. Sometimes easier to have faith in yourself than it is somebody else, but it's the same principle. Where is that person you love? Where is your connection with that person you love? It is in you. You can prove that because you can think of them right now and have an experience with them right now, even though they're not here. That person exists in you. That is within your realm of influence, within your realm of power. So you can hold them in that power. you can see them finding and moving through their life in a way that is positive and helpful and healing. Strength may manifest as the courage to make an apology, or it may express as the power to say no to behavior you know is destructive. And that behavior can be in yourself, it can be in somebody else. But power manifests as strength, and that's, don't ever make the affirmation, I don't have the strength. That's your imagination imagining the sun is not shining. And we have that ability, we have that option. We can imagine we're not in the presence of God, and we can act just like that is true. So we remember that, and we have to retrain the imagination to say, I'm not out of the presence of God. I can't leave the presence of God. I can't leave my source of power. I cannot leave my source of strength. I can imagine that I have left, but I cannot leave it. And so we retrain ourselves to come back. I'm now in the presence of pure being. I'm now in the presence of God, and that presence is expressing as power, life, love, power, intelligence, whatever I need at this present moment. That's where my focus is. Okay, so we have some affirmations for power and strength, and let's just do these together. Let me say them first, and then I'll invite you to join me and speak them aloud. I am an expression of pure power. Good place to begin. Together. I am an expression of pure power. The full radiance of my soul empowers me to steadfastness in all that I am and all that I do. Together. The full radiance of my soul empowers me to steadfastness in all that I am and all that I do. My strength is boundless. My power has no limits. Together. My strength is boundless. My power has no limits. And we can see how this could be true if we think of God as omnipresent. And that is the end of our affirmations. So you can apply this, take any of these 4 areas, and they're on the back of your program. All of these things, I recommend that you take them home. On Wednesday night, I'm following up on, we'll have a meditation based on power this Wednesday, just following up on these topics. But it's a very important shift for us to make in our understanding that we're not evolving. That's not a bad thing. Think of what evolution is. It's adapting to the now moment, the environment of this day. That's absolutely what, if this environment changes, that the need to adapt changes. There's not a goal. The goal is to live successfully and fully this day. And this ties into our new thought of there's only one moment. That is the now moment. It's the eternal now. When you think of evolution, it's the same thing. Science and spirituality come together in that regard. It's pretty interesting. So we're going to keep going with this. We're going to end this phase next Sunday morning on intelligence and order. And then Sunday night, we're going to have our candlelighting service, which is kind of brings all of this together in the expression of our candlelighting service, or the idea of the birth or the awakening to that inner Christ. Thanks for coming out. It's great to see all of you, and see you next week.